Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome to the showdown between the Empire led by the Volkswagen and Norsca, who's going to be led by Ragnar Lothbrok. So without further ado, let's jump right into this match and have some fun. So up here in the Vanguard area, I do have three groups of the Pistoliers. I definitely like them quite a bit in this matchup. Very good at picking on, let's say, Marauders and even Marauder Horsemen, because again, they can shoot while moving and do pretty well. I think they have better range. So Marauder Horsemen with the throwing axes have a grand total of 70 range. These guys do have 80, and of course they do a ton of damage against lightly armored troops with their 38 missile damage. However, not so good against heavy armor, so you don't want to be focusing down Famir and targets like that, but they are a bit high risk, high reward against Norsca, because again, they can do very well against those units I mentioned, the Marauder Horsemen and Berserkers and things like that. However, Norsca does have a lot of tools for chasing them down. They have the Hounds, they have the Frost Hounds, they have the Beast of Tashnar. A lot of good anti-harass stuff on the Norscan roster, so you have to be very careful with them. On top of that, two groups of the Knights of the Blazing Sun, very good here because number one, they have pretty good magic resist. I think it's like 25% or something. So against like Fate of Buna, which is a pretty common counter to these guys, they're going to be somewhat durable. And on top of that, they do fire damage. So against Skin Wolves and all sorts of spooky monsters on the Norscan roster, these guys can do some heavy lifting. So we got two of those, going to be charging monsters, infantry, whatever we can get. We also have a Jade Wizard. So the Jade Wizard here is going to be bringing Earthblood as well as Regrowth. And for our main army, we're going a little bit narrow, which is risky because Norsca is very, very good at surrounding your army. But I wanted to try Greatswords and Volkmar the Grim with some handgunners and see if I could really just punch through my enemy's formations. So 3 Greatswords in the front line will perform pretty well against most Norscan troops. Volkmar the Grim on his Pimp Chariot. We got 2 groups of handgunners, one of them being the Silver Bullets, and 2 groups of Spearmen with the shields in the back to defend. And the shields, I mean, yeah, you don't really need the shields here, but again, it gives you higher melee defense by like 6 or 7, I think, so it's definitely worth it. For my opponent's army, he does have a couple of groups of Marauder Horsemen with throwing axes here on the far side, Norscan Ice Wolf, so definitely a very good anti-heavy contingent here. The throwing axes can kite back your heavy cav, the Hounds can keep you from escaping. It's very, very solid, so I like this pick from my opponent quite a bit. Frontline is a combination of Marauders. You don't really need much better, honestly. Marauders with some supporting like Berserkers and Famir can do really well against pretty much any infantry the Empire can field. So Marauders and Berserkers here in the front line. I don't know if he has Brutes of the Hound. Looks like he just has standard Marauder Berserkers here. He's got Wolfric the Wanderer, who we jokingly referred to as Ragnar Lothbrok. I mean, they're close enough. He does also have a Shaman Sorcerer with the Lore of Death, so Spirit Leech and the Fate of Buna against my heavy cav. He's got the Miststalkers here in the back, and then also he does have some Premier with Grey Opens on the far side. So very, very solid army. Looks like he does have some skirmishing over here as well, so Marauder Horsemen as well as Norscan Ice Wolves. So things are about to get pretty crunk. So without further ado, guys, let's get the show on the road. So right now, I'm trying to force an engagement over here, so just swarming over with my Pistoliers. Getting some shots. I think I get a couple volleys off. Let's see if the Pistoliers do indeed shoot. They kind of sat for quite some time, but there they go. Full heavy volley here. It only takes out one model, but does some pretty decent HP damage. And he is going to be charging me with Marauder Horsemen, so not a bad idea. Marauders have a little bit better combat stats, but they're going to take a full erect charge from the Knights of the Blazing Sun. So they take one here and one here as well. So we get some really good kills here for sure. It's going to melt these guys relatively quickly. You can see their HP just tanking. Knights of the Blazing Sun have a whopping charge bonus, but it's a little bit dicey. I might have stayed too long. You can see a lot of my knights are trapped on the far side over here, and it looks like the Norscan Frosthounds and Famir are piling in, so I would say that was a pretty good initial engagement. I may take some casualties on the retreat, but for the most part, we get some really, really good stuff here against these Marauder Horsemen. They're trying to get rid of my opponent's mobile forces so I can have relative freedom with my cav, but he has a really good response. He charges in with the Norscan Ice Wolves, just beautiful play here. He's going to start dragging me down, keeping me from escaping. Puts me down to 46 speed, which is not fun. Fate of Buna going down as well, Knights of the Blazing Sun, which is going to do some damage. Was definitely very happy I had brought the Knights of the Blazing Sun as opposed to Reiksguard. And the Pistoliers here are just going to be capping some of these Marauder Horsemen. And you can see my Knights of the Blazing Sun with a little charge there to fend them off. But the other group of the Knights of the Blazing Sun, they were being chased by the Norscan Ice Wolves, and I was like, I'm not going to get away from these, so I might as well turn around and fight. And we're actually able to crumple them pretty quickly here. So definitely very good back and forth, but a little bit sloppy. My Jade Wizard was riding with this group, and I had him in a separate control group, so I let him get up a little bit too far. Definitely very dangerous stuff, but my Knights of the Blazing Sun over here still have 45 models somehow, even being at like half HP, but now they're starting to really get punished. So the throwing axes is just dragging them down. I do get a regrowth to kind of top them off, but a very atrocious, well, I wouldn't say atrocious, but a very back and forth initial engagement here. I got some really good value against the Hounds and the throwing axes, but he does get one of my Knights of the Blazing Sun, which is going to be very devastating. And my Wizard gets caught here, so I do get a charge with the Knights of the Blazing Sun. I don't want to lose my Jade Wizard this early. That would pretty much just be a death sentence. So I charge in with my Knights of the Blazing Sun against some Marauders. Wolfric the Wanderer is in there, unfortunately, so he's going to be pretty scary, but just trying to free up my Jade Wizard, and that charge should be enough to free them up. The main forces of my army are moving forward a little bit disconjointed here, trying to square up. My Greatswords are going to be charging in to meet the Marauders, and I should have a good engagement there. And over here, Volkmar the Grim is going to be coming in to run over these Marauders and kind of take some pressure off this part of the formation. I do need to be very careful, though, because my opponent does have Famir with Grey Opens, which really do a ton of damage against him. And yeah, it's just a scary situation all around. So in the front line, the Greatswords have engaged. You can see they're going to be fighting these Marauders. Definitely going to be chopping them up. But the Deathcaster is in there as well, and he is a heroic unit. So he's definitely going to help kind of turn the tide of that engagement. but my opponent has a lot more troops, so I'm having to pull a lot from auxiliary to fight. The spearmen are going to be going in against marauders, joined by a group of greatswords. Hopefully we can butcher them relatively quickly. Right here is a good situation. I have a bit of a kill box, so the silver bullets shooting in, absolutely melting these marauder horsemen. They actually get terrified by Volkmar the Grim, and the spearmen do rush in to stop those marauder horsemen there. I wasn't braced for it, but not too big of a deal. They're just marauder horsemen. And the pistoliers are just kind of sitting in the back, and anytime anything overextends, I'm trying to pick it apart, but the front line is looking a little bit dangerous. Over here, Wulfric the Wanderer does get through. I don't have like anything like Royal Altar Fear Fights, and that was something I really started to feel immediately. I didn't have like a high mass, like anti-large unit, like a cav unit or any sort of a hero that I could really pin down my opponent's heroes with. I kind of had to kite, and it was a little bit tough. Some spearmen of his do get up and around the flank, so I intercept them with my own spearmen. And the handgunners here continuing to shoot at Wulfric the Wanderer. The pistoliers kiting backwards, but he has shut down the silver bullets, so very well played there. And you can see I do detach the greatswords here because I was a little bit blobbed, and I decided to send them after the spearmen to help in the back. In the meantime, Volkmar the Grim being pretty heavy metal in the front line, the Grand Hammer of Sigmar dropping on these greatswords, and they're doing, fairly well. They're chopping through a lot of these marauders and berserkers in a 2v1 situation. Quite happy with that performance. But Volkmar the Grim really being pounded pretty heavily by these Fimir with great opens. He wasn't like dying quickly, but he was still being slowly worn down, which I don't want. So I do have to fall back here. So falling back with my pistoliers, trying to kite my opponent back. He is going to be going after my caster here, so very well played. Wulfric is definitely the master of this, so he does a ton of damage. Hunter of Champions is down, so I use a regrowth on him to kind of try and top him off and save him. Getting some pretty good fire here with the silver bullets and my pistoliers on Wulfric, bringing him down to about 60%. And the bounce fire is pretty even. It's a very back and forth game here. The greatsword's still fighting in the front line. A lot of the Norscan infantry are being broken, but again, the Fimir. And that was something that was kind of a looming threat this whole game. I wasn't doing enough damage to the Fimir. I needed to have my handgunner shooting those bad boys, but he just had so much pressure in the back line that my very elite army wasn't really able to hold up to everything that was kind of swarming around the flanks. So the pistoliers continuing to circle, just shooting at whatever they can. Volkmar the Grim is going to be riding through the marauder spearmen, who are shaken. And my caster actually heals up very, very well. So he comes out of the forest. He's in pretty good shape. Bounce of power is in my opponent's favor here, though. Silver bullets just trying to fall back with all my handgunners and get a bit of a secondary formation, but Wulfric the Wanderer has just been relentless. The Deathcaster here as well can easily just attack these handgunners and shut them down. And I'm kind of losing the frontline engagement as well. So the greatsword's being buckled here. I do have some spearmen fighting with Volkmar the Grim. And the pistoliers, I'm out of ammo. Oh, and a very nice Haggard pirate ship just sailing through the pistoliers. The Deathcaster as well. I'm getting some okay fire. The Fimir warriors with great opens are going down to these handgunners. You can see they only have 8 models. Volkmar the Grim dropping some Holy Justice with the Grand Soulfire Bombardment. But I really just don't have too much left in the way of infantry. It went well, but I didn't have ample resources to deal with the Fimir warriors. It almost makes me think that I should have brought like just a bunch of halberds. I feel like they would have held well enough with their charge defense and then could have dealt with the Fimir a little bit better, especially with Volkmar. But anyways, the handgunners here being compromised by his Deathcaster, the Hounds sweeping into the back line. I intercept the Hounds with the Jade Wizard, and the pistoliers are going to be jumping in as well and just dropping some hot lead here on these doggos. Should be able to deal with those guys relatively well. And Volkmar the Grim also charging in on his pin cart. He's going to be attacking the Deathcaster, forcing him back, but the Hound's just force pathing through, going after the pistoliers. And honestly, yeah, it's just there's so many powerful units left alive. We got Wulfric the Wanderer here. We also have some Fimir. Let's see what else we got going on. It looks like there's some, but for the most part, the Norscan infantry are pretty tattered. 23 models here, 33, 38. There's still some greatswords fighting over here, probably having racked up decent kills with 95. So the greatswords did pay for themselves, but the backline is what's really been just catastrophic this game. So right here, Volkmar the Grim does pop the Grand Shield of Faith. He's now being chased by the Fimir warriors. Pistoliers are kind of still kiting back, but they're running out of ammunition. Some Imperial greatswords have come back in. They're going to be rushing in for Sigmar to take out these filthy barbarians, and they should be able to get them down pretty easily, this one group. But the Hounds are just relentless. They're even able to chew up some of my spearmen, so I thought the spearmen were still fighting, so I charged in with the pistoliers to try and break the leadership of the Hounds. He does get my Jadecaster right here. You can see the Jadecaster just getting pimp slapped by Wulfric. And yeah, it's definitely looking a little bit grim. He does get one of the doggos before he goes, but yeah, definitely a huge mismatch. The Hunter of Champions himself, the Eternal Challenger, definitely not going to have a hard time dealing with Jade Wizard, Radagast over there. So the main fight going on here, you can see that the pistoliers, looks like there's a Spirit Leech going down on the pistoliers. I do get a charge. These marauders are a little bit beat up, so I was like, maybe I can just break their leadership and get Volkmar the Grim back. But at this point, it's looking pretty grim, guys, even though there's a lot of time left in the game. Volkmar the Grim is basically just takes forever to kill. The Fimir with great weapons just working on Volkmar. He's just getting absolutely whooped on by these guys. Dropping some hot fire, but really, I didn't have too many great answers for the Fimir and the width of his army. I definitely would probably change things up a little bit. So after the game, we'll take a look at the breakdown screen, and I'll show you guys maybe something I would do a little bit differently in this matchup based on what I saw. But my opponent played super well. He had really good micro the entire game. He was on point, good at pressuring the back line. He really stayed persistent. And yeah, I can't say anything but good things about his army selection. It was really, really good. I mean, it was wide, it had backline pressure, it had anti-armor, it had anti-infantry. It was really good stuff. The pistoliers, I did like, But I felt like, yeah, with all the pressure that Norsca brought to the table, maybe, I don't know, yeah, it's hard to say here, but Volkmar's a pretty decent choice. I'm starting to think that it might be a little bit better to get like a Boris Todbringer just to swoop in and kill the death. You can swoop in and kill the Deathcaster, but again, if you screw up once with like a Boris or a Karl, you can pretty much lose the game against Norsca with the Norscan Ice Wolves pinning it down and Hunter of Champions. So hard to say, but yeah, I mean, I liked the army. It was good. I mean, it did its own, but the handgunners really struggled. I think this was the one part of army that didn't carry its weight. Also, my initial engagement with the Knights of the Blazing Sun was a little bit sloppy. I should have just played more defensively with them, just pulled back. I shouldn't have committed to those charges as heavily. I think my Pistolier engagement in the beginning wasn't bad, but yeah, once I committed and the Frosthounds were able to nip at my heels, I wasn't able to get away. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So we'll go ahead and take a look at what I would do differently, like look at some suggested changes just based on that experience. And also my opponent Pipes, I believe he's a Twitch streamer. I think he mentioned it before the game that he was streaming on his Twitch channel. So Pipes, if you're watching, man, if you want to come in, drop a link to your Twitch channel. I'll try and pin it up at the top, and yeah, we can go from there. Cool. So we're going to jump over and take a look at what I might do a little bit differently here. So let's go ahead and look and go. Oh, perfect. It's still saved. Oh no, this is actually different from last game. So Volkmar the Grim, I think, is pretty good. I mean, he's really going to help you win that infantry fight. So I think we go with Volkmar. I mean, any of these guys can work. Honestly, you can get Balthazar Gelt and just like nuke with Final Transmutation. There is a bunch of ways you can play this matchup. Miscast Chance, we could probably cut that. Jade Griffin, you always have to get. Really, really important stuff. So we'll get some halberds here in the front. On top of that, I do like having a couple greatswords. I feel like that would be pretty good. But the halberds are going to be pretty... They have charge defense against all, so you could have them brace in the front, break the charge, greatswords follow up. Volkmar the Grim is really going to buff up halberds too, so I think that's going to be pretty good. I did like the Knights of the Blazing Sun. I thought they were pretty good. We can also get like the Royal Altar of Griffites to pin down Famir and things like that. And do I want to get Outriders? It's a little bit risky, but if we can protect them, I feel like something like this might work. But again, it might. Yeah, it's hard to say. I actually have to play. Oh yeah, we need a caster. I was like, what is missing here? Anytime you're using like heavy cav, I think you need to get life. Life is going to be like the way to go here. So let's go ahead and get the life caster. We'll get the Power Stone here. So the army's looking pretty elite. You probably don't even need like the two. You can probably just go with like one greatsword here and bring a couple like state troops on the flanks, just like deal with hounds and things like that. Because the Norscan Ice Wolves, I think, are a large entity. So from here, we probably want to get some missile pressure. We could even just get like Hammer the Witches and just sit in the back with it. So let's see here. What happens if we get Hammer the Witches? Again, anti-large, it's going to be pretty good at taking out Famir, but again, yeah, they're going to be going wide and really swarming. So you want to make sure that you have like ample resources to deal with them. You need something to deal with the Famir in the front line. Although maybe the halberd front line is going to be a little bit like better suited to that. One group of greatswords, of course, is going to be pretty useful for punching through things. And the greatswords last game did generate some really good value. So two groups, Knights of the Blazing Sun. Do we want to get Zentler's Reichsguard? I mean, their stats are pretty similar. 40, 24, 78 compared to 41, 39, 62. Yeah, I like the Knights just based on the fire damage as well as the magic resist. So Royal Altar of Griffites, they are a little bit susceptible to the Fate of Buna, but again, if you have like a regrowth and you're really on top of your game, or you can even stick them with Volkmar and use Grand Soulfire Bombardment to kind of counteract that. So do we want to get... I did like the performance of the Pistoliers. I felt like they were pretty good as like a counter skirmishing tool. Yeah, do we want to do that? I mean, this army I feel like is going to be a little bit more resilient and like you have more width to deal with more of their goodies. Maybe we just get like one like silver bullet, right? And then we can cut these guys and get like a couple spears in the back. I mean, for both of those, yeah, that's going to be pretty decent, I feel. It's a little bit wider, you have more tools, and it's not like you have some missile pressure, but also you have the Royal Altar of Griffites and halberds to deal with Famir. So I think this would be pretty good against Norsca. I'll try and get a Norscan opponent in the next few days and see how it goes. But anyways, thanks for watching. Very well played to my opponent Pipes, and we will see you guys next time.